Hi guys, meet everybody. Today we're going to talk about filters. This is my second take on the video. Now, for this video we're using the LG M210 phone. Now you can see this phone does a pretty doggone good job with this lighting. This is a tungsten based light source, which is predominantly the main one for this area I'm sitting in. But unfortunately, sometimes lighting can get screwy. And as I'm going to show you by putting it closer to the room daylight, which is my hair showing, you can see that my skin kind of looks kind of screwy. So how would you fix that? If you didn't have a phone with automatic white balance, or DSLR with white balance, or if you're using actual film, you use one of these. It's called a filter, and this happens to be an 88 filter, and it's designed to adjust daylight film for tungsten lighting. So if I place this on top of the lens, because it's glass, I gotta be careful, I don't want to drop it, and it's gonna make me look like I'm walking around in a blue room. But the good news is, as you can see it, is that the lighting in the room looks pretty good. The only problem with this is, of course, it absorbs a tremendous amount of light. So you get off the lens here, you can see the difference here. Now on this phone, you can see how much light it absorbs. It just really sucks it up. Okay, but on this phone, it's really not so much of an issue because this phone, well, does a pretty good job with the white balance. So let's really screw it up a bit, shall we? I'm going to turn the air conditioner off first. So let me do that, and then I'll bring it back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my studio lights in this room because I want to show you the difference, the color temperature. Now you'll notice okay, now as you can see, the light is still pretty good, okay, but let's get the light on. In this case, the tungsten light is dominating. Now, the tungsten light is dominating for two reasons. One, you can see it. You can see also, I'm going to move the camera back closer to me so you can see it better. So let me go back to where the light's better. Whoa! Alright. So you can see here that the camera is adjusted fine. But what if I was in an area where there was a lot of daylight coming in, say like a sunny day? You want to use a filter again to do the same thing. I'll drop it. So I'll sit over here for a minute. Don't look much different, does it? Well, that's because the automatic white balance is adjusting the camera. So, maybe you're asking a very good question. Why do we use color correcting filters? Well, we use color correcting filters, especially with film photography, because film photography cannot adjust for crazy light. You could rightfully point out, and just turn that light off. Here. You could point out correctly that you could say that the problem with is that film photography is very simple-minded as far as the light control. The emulsion of the film is designed to deal with one color, temperature. In studios, lighting, like this tungsten lighting, it is very common to use film that is designed for tungsten lighting. If you wanted to use a tungsten-based film outdoors, for example, a common filter uses an 83A. An 83A filter's job, very simply, is to take the natural outdoor light and bring it to the color temperature that is appropriate for tungsten-based film. Well, of course, with digital cameras and digital sensors and digital signal processing, that's not much of an issue anymore. But sometimes, some cameras, my iPhone comes to mind, screws up. As you watch the video of me sitting on camera, you saw on yesterday's video that I looked kind of yellow, like almost like I had a really bad case of liver disease. It's kind of ironic because I really do have liver disease, but it doesn't turn my skin that yellow because I'm taking medication for my liver. It's a congenital liver condition, but that's a different story. So, when you put a filter like this on the camera with automatic white balance, what you're doing is you're telling the camera to adjust for that instead of using the white balance of that it thinks is right. So if I put this back on here, you'll see that my shot looks a little cooler. It doesn't look so hot anymore, and it looks pretty good. Versus that, where I look a lot warmer tones than I am. You can see how much light the thing takes up. You can see how much it soaks in. So the problem is that this is a glass filter. It's kind of big. It's kind of heavy. It's kind of likely it's going to go smash if it falls off. There's no mounting bracket to hold into this camera. And no one's going to want to hold that thing to the lens all day long, especially in a long shoot. But I'll bet you a kangaroo that somebody has made one that can do exactly that. That you can attach it to the camera using a lens holder. Maybe using a Conklin series filter set of plastic gels that can slide into a Conklin type holder, like a System 5 or maybe even a smaller System 2 and 3s. Now you don't need to hold a lot of filters, you just need to hold 1 or 2 filters. Why would I have 2? Well, maybe you might want to do a special effect filter. If they're all filters can be used in analog and digital, you can use the filters to do both. But in this case, we're talking about color correction. So, again, let's take a look at this effect. Here, I'm going to put the camera on the light here. Okay, it's kind of bright, so you're going to have to just bear with me. Alright, this is the light with no filter. That's with the filter on it. Okay? And you can see how it changes. No filter, with filter. So that's just how we can make change the color temperature of room and make it better. So yes, I have used filters in photography for a long time. And the point here is, with this technology, is that you can do something. Now, by the way, if you wanted to change the color of the light source instead, you use the called gels. For example, if you're using a Parkin, say 675 watt halogen, usually with barn doors, but you don't have to have the barn doors. But you want to change the light color to make it from the 3000 Kelvin to 6400, 6500 Kelvin. or even 5,000 Kelvin, you'll use a filter, but it's called a gel. Now, a gel is basically, in this case, is a sheet of material that, depending on the situation, may have to be cut to fit. Now, if you are going to use a gel with a halogen light source, or even HMI, more so with a halogen, you want to make sure that your material you're choosing is designed to handle the kind of heat that's going to come off of a halogen. If you're using these tungsten PS25 bulbs like I am, which are still incandescent, and yes, they throw a huge amount of heat. They're not throwing quite as much as a halogen, but they still will require a high temperature material to prevent the filter from catching fire. That's the only downfall about using halogens, besides or incandescents. The fact is they're hot as hell, and the fact is that they also have cold temperatures of about 2,700 to 3,000 degrees Kelvin. So you want to use a good filter. Yesterday's video's demo wasn't so much worried about white balance. It was just to prove that it could be done what I was trying to do. Several people did like the shot, and I'm glad you liked it. As I said, this camera seems to, of course, it's much newer than my iPhone 4S, seems to be much more capable of figuring out white balance. Perhaps it's doing something by looking at the individual pixels, or as groups of pixels, and then basically just a white balance around those pixels. Right now I'm shooting in HD, not in full HD, it's HD, to show you what it does and what it looks like. But still, don't be afraid to try the filters out. You can learn something new. Alright? So for now, talk to you later. Bye-bye.